What's up, guys? This is the Osmo.com night shift. We're talking MLB for Wednesday, June 6th. It being a Wednesday, we've got a day slate and a main slate. The day slate is 5 games. The main slate is 10 on DraftKings. Should be fun to play both. I'm excited for both these slates, actually. Get to Osmo.com if you want content for both of them. Check out our premium product. You get access to the ownership projections, which are really, really helpful in making lineups, especially if you're multi-entering or if you're single-entering, really. But you also get access to the player rankings from Osmo himself, one of the top DFS players in the industry. I think we've got some really good stuff going on. I'm doing this a little bit early, so there are a couple pitchers that I don't know. There's a couple teams that I don't know who's starting for them. For example, in this first game, we'll just get right into it. Tampa Bay and Washington. I don't know who's starting for the Rays. I'm seeing it maybe Yarbrough, who's not a guy I want to target against heavily if that's the case. But I think Rendon and Bryce Harper. I mean, Harper anytime. If it's not Yarbrough, then I have a lot more interest in Harper just because Yarbrough has shown he's been actually really good. But I'll just talk about Roark. He just pitched in relief a few days ago, and then his last start was 6 days. 6 days ago. So he may be on a pitch count here that sort of gets me off of him. I don't really want to target against him. I mean, I wouldn't mind a Wilson Ramos or someone like that, but I'm not sure what they're doing. Why he pitched in relief? I don't know if it was like an extra inning game over the weekend, but I just missed that. I'm glad I caught it before, so I didn't end up playing Roark. I don't think this is a spot where I would actually have much interest in him anyways, but just wanted to note that. Milwaukee and Cleveland, we've got Chase Anderson going up against Carlos Carrasco. Carrasco for 10K. He's got enormous strikeout upside here against the Brewers. I mean, the downside is certainly there against a team with a lot of power. I mean, he should be one of the top 2 most owned pitchers on this slate, I think. And I mean, I get that for sure. If I had 10 lineups, I think he would be on 5 or 6 of them, depending on how owned we project him to be. So check out the ownership projections on this morning slate. Chase Anderson going for the Brewers. He's got an xFIP over 5 against both sides. I mean, I can't play him here against the Indians. The Indians are actually one of my favorite stacks, if not my favorite stack on this early slate. So I talk about these top 3 guys all the time, Lindor, Brantley, Ramirez. I think those guys are all fairly obvious on this slate. Super high priced, but going down to Alonso and even Melky Cabrera for $3,000 provides some nice salary relief if you're targeting the Cleveland Bats, which I suggest you do. Let's move on to the next game. I should mention Yelich and Shaw, I think, for Milwaukee are 2 pretty decent leverage bats at first glance against Carrasco if you're targeting against him. If he's who we project to be the top or the highest owned pitcher, then I think that those 2 guys make for solid leverage plays. Baltimore and New York Mets. Dylan Bundy going up against Zach Wheeler. Bundy just keeps cruising along. And even in a tough matchup against the Nationals last time out, he was good. The Mets are a team with huge splits between righties and lefties. They're much better against righties, of course. That makes sense with Nimmo and Conforto and Bruce in the top of your lineup. But Bundy's shown he's been good enough against lefties where I'm at least considering playing him here, especially at that price, $8,700. He's not super priced up like Mike Foltynewicz, who we'll talk about in a second. But I think he can have another dominant start here. I wouldn't be shocked at all if he did. If you're targeting Mets bats against him, you want to get the lefties, as he gives up more power to them, xFIP way higher and all that. But outside of 1 or 2 starts this year, Bundy's been just awesome. So I wouldn't go crazy targeting against Bundy. Wheeler on the other side, I think he'll be relatively highly owned because he's a favorite. He's 7,700, and then he's a guy that people like to play in general. He's got pretty good stuff. There's no doubt about that. And then it's an awesome matchup against Baltimore over the last month. The Orioles have a 25% K rate, a 299 on base percentage, and 95 WRC plus against right-handed pitching. So I believe Wheeler will be a top 3 owned pitcher on this slate, and I can't even really argue against it. I think he's a good play. There's no doubt about that. Atlanta and San Diego. Mike Foltynewicz against unknown for San Diego. So I should mention now that since I don't know who's starting for a few teams, we'll talk about these guys on the MLB strategy video this morning. So I'll just point out anything interesting that I see in any of the remaining games. So Foltynewicz coming off a complete game shutout against Washington with 11 strikeouts. So that is, I mean, that's good, obviously, but he doesn't really grade out as a pitcher that I'm in love with. Like, not super high chase rate, not super high swinging strike rate or any of that. But it's hard not to like him here against the righty-heavy Padres. The problem is the price on DraftKings. So that price is probably going to be enough to temper my expectations for Foltynewicz. I'm interested to see his ownership. I wonder if people will actually pay up 11.6 for him. I don't think that I will do it. I like Hosmer against him, but that's really the only bat that I'm actively targeting against Foltynewicz. The strikeout rate is crazy against both sides. I think it's over 27% against both righties and lefties for Foltynewicz. So he's been good, but I don't know if this is my favorite spot for him. Arizona and San Francisco. We've got Clay Buchholz against Chris Stratton. Buchholz for 7,200. We must have turned back the clock on Buchholz. He went 7 innings, 9 Ks in his last start. Granted, it was against the Marlins, but that's still a pretty impressive start for Buchholz, who we thought was buried. I don't think I can buy into him just yet. It wouldn't be surprising if he had another good start at AT&T against the Giants. I wouldn't be surprised really at all. I don't think I'm going as far as playing him, but I'm not targeting heavily against him. The righties have hit him relatively hard in a short sample, so McCutchen and Posey are 2 guys that I like against him, but probably not deploying the full stack against Clay Buchholz. Chris Stratton for the Giants. I think that he's thoroughly average, but he seems to have good starts, and it's frustrating because it's always in spots that he's chalky, or at least it seems that way. He gives up some of the most hard contact of any pitcher in the MLB, and I think he's been pretty lucky based on the stuff on Baseball Savant, the stuff on Fangraphs that you see with the quality of contact he's giving up. So I'm going to continue to target against him. Jake Lamb, Descalso, Goldschmidt hitting a ton better. J.R. Murphy's got a bunch of power. I don't really mind any of these guys, even against Stratton in a huge park. All right, let's move on to the main slate. We've got L.A. and Pittsburgh, the Dodgers versus the Pirates. This is another game where I don't know who's going for the Dodgers, so we will talk about them tomorrow. Trevor Williams for the Pirates. He's really good at forcing soft hits, one of the best in the slate, actually, and I'm not really looking to target against him heavily. I like Grandal, but I'm mostly avoiding stacking against Trevor Williams. Yankees and Blue Jays. We have, I believe it's Sonny Gray going for the Yankees against Sam Gaviglio. Let's see if Gray is confirmed. Yeah, well, he's probable on DraftKings. All right, good. 7,000 for Gray. I haven't fully bought into him just yet after that one good start he had, but I could see him again having a good start against a righty-heavy Blue Jays team. He's not someone I plan on taking a huge ownership stand on. Like, I'd like to be somewhat close to the field on Gray. He just makes me nervous. I don't know if it's a catcher thing or what's going on with him, but he's someone that I guess I'll have interest in as the day goes on, but there's not a ton at the bottom that I like, so just by default, he's kind of in play for me. Sam Gaviglio for Toronto. He's making a ton of people chase in his first few starts this year, even against Boston, which we know is really tough to do. I don't know if I'm playing him, and I'm probably not. He's 4,600, so I mean, you could do it, but I may be just laying off the Yankees stack, and that's how I'll quote-unquote play him. But everything looks pretty solid for him, so I'm impressed with what I'm seeing out of Gaviglio. The Yankees stack is fine, like don't get me wrong, but if they're going to be one of the higher-owned stacks with a 5.3 run total and all that, then I'll prioritize other stacks instead. Detroit and Boston, looks like Blaine Hardy going for the Tigers, and then Eduardo Rodriguez for the Red Sox. I'm not playing Hardy against the Red Sox. Remember when the Red Sox had the lowest WRC plus? They were bottom 5 in like everything against lefties. Well, that's changed substantially over the last month or so. They're even above average now, so that's sort of normalized. Obviously, you're not going to be as good without Mookie Betts in the lineup, but still, Bogarts and JD Martinez I love. And then I can get to a Red Sox stack. It's not my favorite without Betts, but mainly just those two guys. And then if you want to fill in with Benintendi and Eduardo Nunez and guys like that, I think that's fine. I'm off Eduardo Rodriguez here, 9,400. And it's just a strikeout upside thing. The Tigers, for how bad they are, they just don't really strike out against lefties just over 18% of the time. And they also hit them hard. They get on base. So just sort of a frustrating matchup for a lefty. So that's why I don't really like Eduardo. I like Castellanos and Cabrera against him a little bit, but not guys that I'm going to have a ton of exposure to. John Gray going for the Rockies against the Reds, and Saul Romano. I'm not concerned about Gray because of his last start. I really like him here against the Reds. They strike out a lot. Gray has exceptional strikeout stuff, as we know. And then even when he's giving up runs, he's still getting the swinging strikes and whiffs like in his last couple starts. So I really like Gray. 7,500 I think is a bargain for him. It's as good of a hitting park as Great American Ballpark is, it's still a downgrade in hitting from Coors Field. So Gray gets a boost for me. 7,500 is the right price for him, I think. So I will be having myself a lot of John Gray. I will not have a lot of Saul Romano. I love targeting against him, especially with lefties. So I absolutely love Charlie Blackmon here. And that's not some hot take. Bad righty, good ballpark. 5,200 for him. Carlos Gonzalez for 4,000 also is a guy that I like. And then Arenado against the bad righty, you can always convince me to play him. Oakland and Texas, Daniel Megnan going against Bartolo Colon. Huge run total in this game, over 10 right now. It's supposed to be in the 90s once again in Texas. Megnan has gone 7, 9, and 8 innings in his last 3 starts. His strikeouts have not been there, and really they haven't been there all season. His swinging strike rates, nothing special. His whiffs aren't great. I don't know if going that deep is sustainable for Megnan, but against the Rangers, he would be a guy I'd like. He'd be a guy I like if he were priced in the John Gray range, but for 1,000 more almost than John Gray, I'll pass on him, especially with the huge total on the Rangers side. I like Gallo, Mazzara, Chu. For Texas, Megnan is giving up a bunch of hard hits against lefties. It's a great environment, as I stated off the top, and against a pitcher that I don't think is great. So I'm not really buying into Daniel Megnan as a guy that's going to go deep with regularity. We know we can target against Bartolo Colon, specifically with the power guys, so the A's bats are going to be pretty chalky here once again. They priced up Chris Davis, Olsen finally over 4,000, Jed Lowry for 4,500, Matt Joyce got a little boost in price, 3,400. The thing with Colon is that if he's even off a little bit, the ball is going to be hit really, really hard. He's got to have that control and be hitting those corners. If he's not doing that, a team like Oakland's going to pound him. So could get burned stacking against Bartolo, and sometimes he gives up 6 earned runs in 3 innings like he did, I believe it was his last start. So you know what you're getting into with Bartolo. You know that comes with some increased ownership, the hitters against him. All right, Philadelphia and Chicago. Aaron Nola for 11.4 against Jose Quintana for 8,800. I don't really love this matchup for Nola, and I don't know what exactly to do with him. I haven't made up my mind. It's almost 24 hours until lock, so right now I don't have a strong opinion on Nola. He's a guy that I'll dig into more tomorrow morning, so we'll talk about him. I'm interested to hear Josh's thoughts on Aaron Nola. The total's not out for this Cubs game. Probably waiting to see how the wind's going to affect this game. I also don't like targeting bats against Aaron Nola in general. I think he's just a really, really good pitcher. Quintana going for the Cubs. I sort of wonder if he'll be heavily owned here for 8,800 because of his nice start against the Mets, but it seems like every lefty against the Mets has a pretty good outing, and I'm kind of throwing that start out for Quintana. He's still not missing a lot of bats, and he didn't really do a good job of missing bats in the Mets start either, and I thought that's why he was going to be good. So I'm not on Quintana. I like Altherr for 2,900, just too cheap for him, guy that has a lot of power. And then Carlos Santana for 3,800, and I could almost get to a Phillies stack. Kingery 2,900 and Maikel Franco for 3,400. That's super cheap for these guys. And Quintana's giving up over 40% hard contact to righties. So tentatively on the Phillies stack. White Sox and Twins. We've got Hector Santiago going up against Jake Odorizzi. No interest in Santiago. A lot of interest in the Twins bats. Dozier, Sano, Escobar. I think the Twins could be one of the sneakier stacks. Not if that run total keeps going up. It's at 5 right now. But I think the way that it can be sneaky is if you include Rosario, if you include Max Kepler, who are both hitting lefties exceptionally hard. And Santiago, it's a small sample for him, but a 734 xFIP against lefties this year. But mostly just because Kepler and Rosario have both hit lefties really well, and Kepler's only 3,600. If you include those guys in the stack, they're going to be substantially lower owned than, I think, Escobar and Sano and Dozier. So that's what I mean by sneaky if you're 5-man stacking it. Odorizzi, I think I'm giving him another chance here. The matchup against the Indians was one in which I should probably not have used him, but it was more of a slate thing than anything. Against the White Sox, I'll have some exposure. They have a 24% K rate, and they're pretty much a neutral matchup all around, at least lately. I'm scared of Palka. I'm scared of Moncada, but for 7,300 at home for Odorizzi, sizable favorite. Yeah, sign me up for some more Jake Odorizzi. Seattle and Houston, Wade LeBlanc going up against Lance McCullers. LeBlanc is much worse against righties, but he's still actually been okay. He's been really shut down against lefties, and then not as much against righties, but I can't really argue against the Houston stack. They'll probably come in higher owned than they should. 4.7 run total. You're not getting that big of a discount on Altuve, Correa, and Springer. Gurriel is 3,500. He seems to just never get priced up, so he'll have some ownership for sure. And then Bregman, 4,100. So I don't know. I mean, I like the Houston stack, but if it's going to be a top 3 or 4 owned stack, I don't think I'm really on it that much. I'm not really interested in McCullers here. He's 10.5, and Seattle is just one of those teams that doesn't really strike out that much, and McCullers is the guy who needs to strike out guys to pay off this salary, and I don't know if he really can do it. So I probably sound like a broken record saying that, but Seattle's one of those teams that I just don't like to target pitchers against if I can avoid it, kind of like the Royals. Miami and St. Louis, Wei-Yin Chen against Jack Flaherty. Flaherty's 10-2. He's probably going to be somewhat of a popular option against the Marlins, who I guess they've remembered they're the Marlins lately. They're losing a ton of games. They don't really have many scary bats, especially against a righty. For 10-2, that's tough for me to get to with Flaherty. I want to check in and see if or see how many pitches he's throwing at that price. because you need every inning you can get out of someone that's priced like that. Wei Chen comes into this game rocking a 710 xFIP, 170 whip against righties this year, over 6 walks per 9. He's been, shall we say, not good. I like the Cardinals righties. I think they'll be popular. Mostly, well, I guess to pick a couple bats that I really like. I really like Yadi Molina. I really like Tommy Pham. And then obviously you got the rest of the guys in there, Bader and Ozuna and Jed Jericho and who else am I missing? Oh, Jose Martinez. These guys are all in play. Cardinals going to be a pretty popular stack with the 5-run total. Kansas City and LA, last game of the night. We've got Ian Kennedy going up against Shohei Ohtani. Lineups are not showing up for this game, but anyways, Kennedy's been a hard hit machine. He used to be able to miss some bats at times, even earlier in the season, but he's not really been able to do that lately. And when he gets behind guys, like his last start against Oakland, where he got completely obliterated, I mean, he just gets into such deep trouble when he's not getting ahead in the count. And the Angels are one of the most patient teams in the MLB. Yeah, they haven't been all that great lately, especially if you look at some of their hard hit data and Baseball Savant and looking at each player's individual average exit velocity. But Kennedy's a guy that they can get right against. I don't really have an issue with any Angels in the lineup. My favorites are Valbuena, Trout, Kinsler, but I mean, stack up Upton. You can stack up Cozart, and I know I'm forgetting another bat. It's too bad Ohtani can't bat in this game. Or I guess he could, but it's too bad he won't, because I would love him as a hitter in this game. Ohtani pitching here, 15.5% swinging strike rate on the season. He's amongst the league's lead in whiffs per swing rate on the season. He's got the stuff to overcome the Royals in this matchup, but again, it's just one of those teams that it's really hard for me to play expensive pitchers against them. You can play pitchers against them, but when they're expensive, you need them to strike out 7 or 8 guys. You need them to go deep, and the Royals they've committed to just not striking out, or at least a bunch of their guys have. We saw a little bit of a different Royals team last year, but 2 years ago, they were kind of doing this exact same thing. So just frustrating for Ohtani. I don't think he'll have an issue with giving up power or anything, but it's just an upside thing at that price. So that's going to do it for the night shift. Hope you guys enjoyed this and it got you started with your research for Wednesday, June 6th. Tune in to the MLB strategy video. I'm assuming we will do that live. We'll give you some additional analysis on the early slate. We'll talk main slate first. So tune into that. Tune into the live stream before lock. Check out our rankings and ownership projections that will be updated throughout the day. Good luck, guys.